Having someone else read your story can be scary. But how about sending your story to a contest? Today, we have Sharad, Duwal, Yonzon, and Lalahang, who are the 3 winners of Writing Nepal 2023. Writing Nepal, that began in 2013, is a short story writing contest that encourages new writing in English from Nepal and the Nepali diaspora. Sharad is a short story writer from Bhaktapur who won the first place in the contest. Lalahang's story won second place, and he is a short story writer, poet, and has an interest in videography and runs a blog. Dia was the third place winner. She is a writer and researcher and runs The Melon Stories. In this episode, we explore how they wrote the story that emerged as the winners of the 2023 edition of the contest. Thank you for tuning in to How'd You Create That? The podcast is supported by the Open Institute for Social Science. You can listen to us on YouTube, YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms. Subscribe and follow us to find more episodes on the creative process. I'm your host, Alfa.
Hi everyone, I'm so glad to have all of you, the 3 winners of Writing Nepal 2023. How are you feeling?
A little nervous, I guess.
Okay. How about others? How about Dia and Sharad? That was Lala just now.
Yeah, I'm Sharad, and I'm also kind of feeling a little, nervous basically, but yeah. How about Dia?
I'm having a lot of fun. I think more fun than I should have, but yeah.
Wow, more fun than you should have. So we had a good laugh as we were preparing to record, and I think that BTS is going to be very memorable for me as well. So let's start with introducing your stories. Please tell us the title of your story and, what it's about, like an intro to somebody who might not have read it, or, even though somebody who's already read it, just straight from the authors themselves. Who would like to go first?
Not me.
Oh. Dia?
Okay, sure.
Okay. We have Dia.
So my story is The Unwritten Letters. Before it was called something else, and after talking to a few people, feels like I made the right decision and call it Unwritten Letters. So my letter or my story is about a girl called Kriti. And I think for me, in the story, I just wanted to portray the weight of carrying a secret.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's such a universal thing that, there's so many facets of our identity, and we tend to move a lot. We have a lot of friends. And so when you move on from one relation to another, or when you move from one place to another, you have this space to be completely new. But at the same time, you also have this, how do you be authentic? And so while introducing to someone new, what are the things about you that you tell them? And I think that's the premise of my story, where there is this girl called Kriti, and she's in this new relationship, which technically not that new. It's around a year now. And so there are things of the past about her that she hasn't yet revealed it to her boyfriend, I think. And so it's a day in her life and how she navigates throughout the day.
Cool. Thanks, Dia. Who would like to go next? We have Sharad and Lala.
Yeah, I can go next. So my story is called, Kumari Gully is now a cul-de-sac. And the story, I think, is, it is from a perspective of a much older person, but they are kind of, talking about a few things that they experienced as a kid. So especially around the age of 11 or 12, I guess. And this kind of it's like a reflection. So the story is, so I feel that the story is about, about time and how time can change people in kind of unexpected kind of ways. And it's not only about that, I guess. So I kind of have this kind of like a feeling that all of us have us all of us have like these obsessions as a kid, and these obsessions, they could happen for about 5 months or 6 months or a year or two, but after like a long time, if they try to take a look back to that a part of their life, they kind of cannot put the whole thing into perspective. So it could be like a hobby, or it could be like an obsession of some sort, but as a kid you have these experiences, and I guess that the story is about how such experiences can change people in super final ways.
Oh wow, I read the story, so I know what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
that makes me curious again. So let's move to Lala with his story.
My story's title is Till You Remember to Forget Me. The story is basically a dystopian story about two robots. Just really going through what most humans go through. I mean, I guess the most common experience as a human being go through is existential crisis. And I was going through my 20s myself, when really not understanding what is going on and how do I fit myself into this existence. I really thought fitting in that kind of perspective into a robot, something who is non-sentient, and just trying to see how they would react to it. So basically that is the baseline of the story. And it is mostly, to come back to the title, it's mostly about memories and remembering and forgetting. How much as a human being we block out our memories, and how much do we allow ourselves to feel. So there's always this selective things that go along in our existence. So I guess that is the entire baseline of the story. And I guess that's all I could say for now.
Something that when I was rereading all of your stories again, I realized that all three of your stories are so different. The style is different, the voice is different. Obviously, they're different people, and the genre is different. Like Lala's is dystopian, it's like sci-fi, and Dia and Sharad's are obviously they're more rooted in the reality, but there's also twists and turns that keep happening. But I think all of these stories, when put together, it shows something more. It's like it's part of our lives in Kathmandu in different ways, and I think it's so beautiful how these pieces come together. And I would love to know how the idea for each of your stories started. Like, what did you get hit by a lightning, as they like to romanticize with artists sometimes, or how did it start?
I can go. I think for me, it was, I wrote the story way back. And then the first draft is nothing like, the end. But so this happened. I was with my friends in Tamil, and, we were having dinner, and after dinner, like a grandmother I am, I made sure that everyone had their patao or taxis and they were safely home, and I was the last one waiting outside the Garden of Dreams. And so surprisingly, there was this one gentleman in a car, and he looked at me and he kind of sort of gave me this like call. So I was mistaken for a prostitute or a sex worker. And it was really funny. In hindsight, it sounds very funny. And at that time as well, I just laughed it off. But it really got me thinking, and I have a lot of friends who are trans sex workers, and so I think I really wanted to do something with that moment, and I sat for it for a very long time. And the first draft of the story, it was more about Tara than it was about Kriti. And when I started working on the story more and more, I realized perhaps it's not necessarily Tara's story at this point. It has become Kriti's own story. And I think that's where like the multiple drafts came in, and and then we just see a glimpse of Tara as we see a slightly larger glimpse of Kriti. So that's how the story was conceived, I think.
Characters have their own lives, don't they?
They do. I was just talking to Lala like right before the podcast started, and I was telling Lala how I go to Kriti for advices sometime in my own head because she's much older and wiser.
Wow, that's very interesting. I would love to read some pieces about Kriti's advice.
Sharad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for this story, the first thing that appeared to me was the character of the it was the Harmonium kind of like. So it started from that, and that I first had the idea for the character in like 2021 basically. So at that time, in the 2021 edition of the competition, in the shortlist, like we have like a story called the Harmonium Kanchi or something. I think it's by Shubhangi Kharda, I think.
Yeah.
And so at the time I saw that title, and I don't have access to the story, of course. I don't know if it's actually available online, but the phrase, it was just so interesting that it kind of had like so the idea for that character, it started at that time basically. And so I had this like a character, but I don't I still had to like think about a story like for that character. So of course I had the character, but it took me about 2 more years to actually take it so seriously that it would be a story. So the first idea, at the start, the idea was to just have like a sketch of the country and the communities, and how a person and their how do I say this? So the original idea, it was to just explore exactly like what happens to this character. So it was that. So for that, I thought that it would be ideal to have like a community which is like super close knit, and how they would experience like something like it could like how they would experience the experience of that kind of an abuse. But it was not supposed to be as personal to the character as it is in the final edition. In fact, the second edition of the story, it was not so personal to the character, and I've also sent like a draft to Alfa, and I'm pretty sure that you also probably felt that it was not so personal. But it just to me, it just started to feel that it could have like a personal kind of like, and like a personal to the character as well. So I did that at the end, and that was how it happened.
I'm intrigued by the fact that you saw a phrase.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Shivangi's title,
Yeah.
Harmonium Kanchi, in the shortlist in 2021, and it's very fascinating to know that you saw a phrase and then you were like, and then it led to a story.
Yes. So the phrase had me kind of asking myself, like अब त्यहाँ चाहिँ अब यसपछि के त्यो केही स्पेसल भएको छ कि like so it started from there basically, but it expanded.
Yeah, I mean, stories can come to us in different forms. Dia was saying it's something that happened on the road and that became a story. It started with a phrase for Sharad. Now we come to Lala.
Okay, so my turn. So I started writing a story really. I had just recently, I was about to graduate, and this busy, I was doing this internship. I had to take a bus by Singadarbar, and the workplace was at Teku. So I used to take the route every day, and this busy, the traffic there was crazy. So what I was, mostly the story was informed from the repetition of the day, and how really existential it was and boring it was. What am I doing? So mostly it was filled with that questions. But the dystopian part of it really came from me and my friends just hanging around and this was making fun of each other. And just trying to write a story with like 2 robots in it. So it was mostly that. Later I merged 2 of them together. It was initially it was a very unserious story. Even in one of the drafts, Apeksha and Manmaya, Apeksha gives a massage to Manmaya and they kind of fall in love. And things get a little frisky there. So it was kind of this funny thing. But then again, I kind of merged the 2 of them and really trying to fit in what really works the best. And really the story started. The story actually is quite a bit longer, and there is more incorporation of poems in it, which I started off as to just hand it out to my Instagram friends who are mostly writers and this busy. Unarke lagi just like to have a little bit fun in the community and this busy just to do something. So it started off as that. But then again, Pachi, I just thought, why not send it to the competition and see what potential it held. Yeah.
And then we are here talking about that story.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question for Lala. Because your story is about robots, like androids, I was curious, how did you start thinking like your android characters, When I write stories, I struggle to think about other characters. I always say this, I can only think like myself. But then you have another challenge. You have to think like android robots. So how did you go about with that?
Well, I was reading a lot of Asimov, Titibela, and this was a lot of Asimov and just like short science fiction stories. And what I really found amiss on those things was I really wanted an expansion of just descriptions where what the robot was really going through on this which I kind of found missing on those kind of things. And I just thought like maybe I'll just write it and see where it goes. And so started from there. But then again, at the same time, with the current economic system that we're living in, we're also kind of running through on very low energy. And this we are kind of like a robot. We kind of turn off our emotions and just try to get through the day because that's what we're supposed to do. So I guess if we even interchange the robot with a really numb person who just has succumbed to the system and he has to go to work and everything, I think the story still, the core of it remains the same.
Wow. Thinking like giving like human characters to robots.
Yeah, mostly that.
Wow, that's very fascinating. I have a very curious query for Dia, because you write in the second person. No, the first person, I, but it's addressed to a very specific you. It's a letter, obviously. So I'm curious, like how do you work around with the voice I and a specific you? Sharad also has I. The narrator in the story is also I, but that I is not speaking to a very particular you, but your story is speaking to a very particular you. So, it's like, it's the style, but it's very different in its own way.
I think so. When I started the story, I didn't think of it as a story. I was trying to think of it as a story, and it got really difficult, or it just didn't go to places that I thought it would. And so I just took a breather, and I thought, okay, what would Kriti be doing in this moment, or what would be helpful? And I thought, okay, if my character Kriti is trying to write a letter and she is stuck and she's feeling all this feeling, how do I show that? And I was like, okay, well, let me first write a letter being Kriti to this you and see where it goes. And I actually wrote a letter to you, and I embodied Kriti, I guess. And I really like that. I think when we write, we always also think about audience. And when I was writing Kriti, I really thought her audience is just her partner, this you. And so when I went back to the story, I started incorporating that, and it kind of made sense. Pieces started falling into places, and it's something that I've carried over to other story as well. So very recently, I was writing a different story, a forthcoming story, hopefully, and in it as well, like I've realized that I'm more comfortable when there's a you in the character, like the story. So yeah, I'm just playing with that fact and that idea, and that was how the I and you worked in this story.
So by you mean there's a specific character you're thinking about that to whom the story is, the letter is.
Yes, absolutely.
In this piece.
Yeah, in this piece, absolutely. This is everything Kriti wanted to tell you, but she doesn't end up writing the letter, of course.
Spoiler.
Oh no one's gonna read it now. No, I think basically they know that this is just as I said, a glimpse into Kriti's life, and this is a letter from Kriti to you, and all of us are just privy to it, and yeah. Not to get a lot of sappy, but I feel really thankful that Kriti allowed me to, peek into her own story. But yeah, I think that really helped me, or sense of direction, Dio. Like, why is this girl writing this letter, and why is she having all this struggle, and why am I writing story of this girl, Wala Kurama, when I made it I and you? It really, really helped me, have a sense of direction. So yeah.
When I was reading it again, something that I noticed was it's a letter, but it also has a lot of description. And there's a point where I forget that it's a letter. It's like, especially there is a description, a part, I think you're describing Tamil or Lajimpad.
Yeah, Tamil strip. Yeah.
And then I forget that it's a letter. It comes a little later on in the story. And I forget that it's a letter. And then again, the you suddenly comes in. And I'm again reminded that, this is a letter. Because I love how that keeps switching around. How did you find the voice for your story, Sharad? Like, it's also continuing with the conversation that we're having with Dia. Like, how did you decide it's going to be a first person? It could have also been a third person.
Yeah. So, if you take a look at the story, it's actually the first person, it starts out with like a we.
Yeah, it's a plural.
Yeah, it starts out with a we. So it's the first person, it's the first person, first person plural. But the idea, as I've told you, is that I like at the start, the idea for me, it was to see how a community is about to, take a look at like a big kind of like an event that happens. So in the beginning, it was the first person plural, since the whole community has to have an experience, it has to have it has to have like a response to this event. But if you take a look, it slowly starts from we, but slowly we see I. And again, so I've also talked about the idea that the story is about time and how it affects you. And I guess that is also like an intentional thing in which as a kid, we are in a group basically, and we start out with like a crowd or something like that, but slowly, slowly it starts to kind of, like peter out basically. And at the end, it's not so much we, but just I. So that was the first thing. But if you ask me about the voice, and I'm not sure if by a voice, like you mean like the
narrator.
So it could be the first person only, and the voice of the story is how the story is told.
Yeah,
so
it can be both, true.
Yeah. So for the second thing, I always had this feeling that the story, it was about to, or in my head, the story was also like an essay that the character wrote for his therapist basically. So he starts out with kind of just talking about the happy parts, except so the idea, I guess, was that he was not sure he wanted to talk about the things that he eventually talks about. So at the start, it kind of tries to be super funny and how it's such an amazing time, etc., but as time goes, the story starts to talk about something else, like something other than how it actually started. So I guess the voice comes from there.
It just connects all three of the things that you just said. All three of you said about audience. Lala started it for his friends on Instagram. The character wanted to write to another character, which is you, and your background was also that your character was writing it to their therapist.
Yeah.
So there's someone you're in mind, like an audience. Sort of.
Yeah, so for at least for the story that I wrote, it's not like so the idea that it's supposed to be like an essay for a therapist. It's not like a strict kind of like a guardrail, but it's just like it's just like like a casual structure to the story that I had in my mind. So it's not like for that, but still, yeah, it's just like a shape. Like to just add a shape to the story.
Yeah, it kind of gives it a unique character. You kind of know who you're speaking to, sort of.
Yeah, something like that.
Somewhat, not necessarily that character, but yeah, sort of. Would you like to read something? We've spoken a while about your stories, and I would love to hear you read it in your voices. So, shall we hear some of your stories? Short reading. Shall we start with... Let's start with the start.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. The first strains of the harmonium would permeate the morning quiet while we still lay in bed. First, some diatonic trips along an octave, then Razamati followed by Fulko Akhama. The squeeze and release of the instrument producing soulful nasal keening halfway between a lowing and a whine. It sounded diffuse and far away from our homes. Only the lower end coming through, insistent and enveloping. Every morning without fail until the day it stopped. If we hadn't debedded already, the harmonium was cue that we should. We'd get up, ablute, and take ourselves to buy day chiaposa and buy night patti in Inacho to get some mimkis to go with the morning tea our mothers would be putting on to boil. Before we even put the communal pond behind us on our way there, we would hear Ap Pantor or O Chable from behind us, and the others would join us on the perambulation to secure the mimkis. Not everyone, however, rousted themselves for the Mimkis. Some of these barely 12 kids were out for their morning fix of nicotine. It would take us all of 10 minutes to get to a crowded Inacho. This was how the morning started. The walk, 10 Mimkis for 10 rupees, the tea, and getting ready for the day at the Progress Secondary, and always the Harmonium to color the morning golden. Its undulations, industrious and laid back at once. I'll keep it there.
Yay, thank you so much. I have two quick questions before we move to our next reading. One is, do you know how to play the harmonium? Was it like researched or a mix of both? And the other question is, how do you come up with names like Progress Secondary?
Yeah, so for the first, I don't know how to play the harmonium, but it's the same as the piano basically. And the piano is the same as a guitar. And I can, I guess I'll have to, explain it a bit, I guess. So it's the same as in, the chords and the scales are the same. So if you have like a C chord on the guitar, then, we also have like a C note in the piano. And so we also have like a C note, in the harmonium. So it's the same kind of. So I do have some experience with, with the guitar and the piano as well. So I guess I kind of do know how to play the harmonium, but I haven't actually, I actually spent time on it.
Okay.
So for the second, I think question, you said that about the names.
Yeah, Progress Secondary. That's the name of a school where the story is happening, and I'm like, this is interesting. How did you come up with that?
So I don't think I actually put a lot of thought into it. So a lot of the school names, around the valley, I think they start with it starts out with a word in English, and it just says a secondary school, and the first word is often kind of it kind of tries to explain in some sense that we have like a good schooling or something like that. So it could be a progress or prowess, or it could be anything. So it was like a random kind of a name. I don't think I spent a lot of time to come up with that school name, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it says it's a small detail, but it's because we also grew up looking at names of schools that have an English name, and now nowadays they have international name in the school name. So I think it says so much about the setting and the place where it's happening. And somebody who hasn't grown up in this area might not know this nuanced detail, but for some of us who've been here for a while, know that it shows something about the place.
Yeah, and I think additionally, it also kind of informs us about the time, I guess, since
True.
For now we have all these international etc. schools, but at that time I think that the story is about at least maybe 20 or 15 years in the past, I guess. So in that time, at least we didn't have a lot of international schools.
Yeah, that was really it's a beautiful detail. Shall we move to Dia or Lala?
Yeah,
You should go, Lala.
Oh, fine.
Dia says Lala should
Yeah.
read.
Okay, so last evening, the city had closed down early due to an incoming storm. Light drizzle rode upon the winds of Tiku. The trees shivered and the people crawled under rain covers. The shutters closed as the city drowned into the evening. However, the tinted glasses of grey corporate buildings stayed erect like eyeless faces, turning their backs to the sprawled narrow gullies full of shanty colonies of slate roof and mud, comprising the banks of the Bisnumati River. The wind gusted through the linen hung on the terrace, as though the billowing cloth wanted to become the wind itself. The bright plastic pegs clipped on its edges stitched the linen to the ropes, barely yet determined. Manmaya's flip-flops slapped against her heels and upon the blobs of raindrops on fissured floors of mold and dust. The green mold, wet and slippery, sent the woman's feet in the air as she gripped a handful of linen. Her back hit the concrete floor. Mareni Babai, she screamed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for reading. I love the title of your story, Till You Remember to Forget Me. I remember when you were reading it and the title was announced we were at Mopi school.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember somebody saying, "Oh, that sounds like a title of a song."
Yeah.
So I'm curious, is there a story behind it or how did you come up with it?
Yeah, there's a song. Dia and we were talking about it. There is a song similar to it. It's from Shakya and Rihanna.
Oh, it's a collaboration with Shakya and Rihanna.
It's their song, but I guess it's Can't Remember to Forget You or something.
Okay.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, it's that song. But no, it was not inspired by that.
Well, thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, it would be funny if it was inspired by that. Yeah, lovely song though. Moving forward from that. So this title actually, the poem in the story, Last Majun Bako. Actually, it's from a friend, Instagram. His name is My Doctor Said Right. I had written the entire story, and this basically it was all about remembering and forgetting, and I was really struggling with the title. And I had read his poem like a few months back, and for some reason I started scrolling down his posts, and this was way down below I found it, and I read it, and a lot of things it just fit right in the story, and this basically it just made perfect sense. And of course I asked his permission for it, and after his blessing, I put it in the story, and he kept it as a title as well. So thanks to him. But then again, yeah, it's really amazing how it almost feels like when I was done writing, it was almost like a little tap for me. Like, okay, boy, you're done with the story, Banera, with me finding that poem. So that's how I ended all of, tied it up completely with the title.
Oh, that also reminds me that writing is a collaborative effort, and you get inspired by other artists and by the things that we're seeing. And it's lovely to know that you were inspired by a poem written by someone else, and that also made it to the story.
Yeah, actually, this story had like initially a structure. It had like 3 poems. Just man say Amy Powell ko poem थियो एउटा, अनि त्यसपछि अर्कोमा यो पोम भइहाल्यो. बिचमा चाहिँ भीमदर्शन रोकाएको एउटा पोम छ, about him going round and round in a saza bus. I had my friend, Instagram friend again, Jisan, translated that to English. So it's such a fun thing in Instago, entire writing community. They come together and they try to create something, and just little kids trying to have fun and be creative, and it's a very good process, and it just kind of reminds you what you really do it for.
Oh, that's so wonderful to get to know about the community that supports each other. And while writing can be a lonely, solitary task, it's also so much about the other people we're surrounded with.
Yeah.
On that note, let's move to Dia and her story. Which part will you read?
I'm going to read the second and the third paragraph. Yeah. What? You drop me off at the cafe nestled between tall buildings in Tamil. I order a slice of blueberry cheesecake and lemon tea with crushed ginger, and take out a loose sheet of lokta paper you had bought for me. The ink blotches across the irregular surface as I try to string words together. Scribbles and strike through etched onto the paper. I stand up, hours later, with ink stains on my finger, a blueberry cheesecake half eaten, the aftertaste of ginger on my lips, and the unfinished letter folded inside my journal. Inside the bathroom, my eyes fall on my reflection in the full-length mirror, and underneath a solitary pendant fluorescent bulb, I am ethereal in my terracotta-colored dress that drapes below my knees. It is the only hint of warmth against the cool blue of the light. It is true that over the years my face had grown softer and rounder, but the cold, clinical light is unforgiving. It contours my face in a way that highlights my sharp jawline and casts a soft shadow in the middle of my neck. I take my scarf out of the tote bag and wrap it around my neck before stepping out. The streets of Tamil this Friday evening are a kaleidoscope of neon colors and conversation, bustling in preparation for the night. For the first time, I think of someone else other than you. I wonder where Tara might be. As I walk the pavement outside the Garden of Dreams, I picture her there on the sidewalk. We were driving back to my apartment when we saw her standing by herself in her red cherry cocktail dress, layered with a puffer black jacket, black knee-length boots with matching fishnet stockings. Her lips were red, complementing her dress, and her eye makeup smoky. But that wasn't the first time we saw her, was it? The first time we both saw her was when you dropped me off for my conference in Dulikhel. The organizers had called me that morning, asking if I could also pick up Tara from Surya Vinayak on the way to the conference. All the participants had arrived a day earlier except Tara. From the passenger seat, I could see her behind you in her blush pink anarkali kurta set, embellished with gold lace details at the neck. Her eyelids, cheeks, and lips brushed with a matching hue of pink. She must have woken up very early. The morning light filtering through the glass left a soft glow on her face that even her prominent Adam apple couldn't diminish a single thread of femininity she exuded. After the conference, I told you that she was a transgender woman, and you said, "Lo, I hadn't noticed."
That was a lovely reading, dear. Thank you so much for that. In your story, there's so many specific visual things, like half-eaten blueberry cake and terracotta dress. And I'm curious, how do you come up with that? And something that people probably don't know is I had the privilege, the grand privilege of seeing this work in progress, her story. So we have a writing center at the Open Institute.
Woohoo!
And all of us were, workshopping our stories for the contest. So yeah, I've had the privilege to see it draft after draft.
I'm very thankful for that.
Now back to the visual details of half-eaten blueberry cake. I want to eat a blueberry cake now. How do you come up with that? It's so specific, so specific.
I think it has to do with the fact that I might be a visual writer. Or when somebody says something or tells me anything, the first thing I think about is the things around them. If someone says, "Oh, kasto ramro pink kurta," my mind is already racing. Like, is it like an anarkali or is it like a straight kurta? Kasto se kurta. I try myself, I try very hard not to question them. I think that is how I write as well. Maybe inspired by some writers who go into long descriptions or what was it Virginia Woolf who wrote about Mrs. Dalloway with you dinner descriptions and everything. So I think it really helps me ground as well. There's a very specific reason to half-eaten blueberry cheesecake. It's kind of like I was thinking, okay, so the character, she's lived in Nepal and then she's gone to Malmo and stayed there for a very long period of time and came back to Nepal. So I was thinking, what would she eat? What would she order? And just did some and I thought, okay, maybe she'd enjoy a blueberry cheesecake. And then, and then there's also like lemon tea with crushed ginger, because it's such a Nepali thing, no? Ginger zimani halni. Ani. So, those were the things. And then the reason why it was only half eaten, for me, it was really important to show that, was because, she's in this process of writing this letter, and she's really struggling, or the letter is not being written, right?
Spoiler.
Spoilers again.
Just kidding.
Yeah. And so, so I just imagine myself, if I was, writing something, or if I was doing something, how, it's like, I think my own habit, right? So I was like, I probably wouldn't finish all my food, or I would like, I would be very careless with food. So I thought maybe, just like the letter, her blueberry cheesecake is also unfinished. And I like the metaphor in that. And I just stuck with that. And yeah, and then in terms of like Aru visuals, I would say, maybe I think because I write, or I try to write like contemporary fiction Aru, I think it's important for me to also situate the readers, or say, कहाँ छौ के छौ अनि why does it matter हुन्छ नि एउटा रुममा छौं भने त्यो रुममा के छ. It's a process for me to help understand the character, but also I think as a reader I'm always like looking for visual cues अरूको writingमा, so I think it just comes naturally त्यो हिसाबमा नि होला.
True. You mentioned anarkali, and one of your characters, Tara, wears a blush pink anarkali kurta. Like blush pink, it's just so memorable. It's like, if I were writing, I'd probably just write pink, but then blush pink. That was very memorable. So, all of your stories were written were won Writing Nepal 2023, and we are, as of this recording, nearing the end of 2024. So it's been a while. Like, Sharad started writing 2021, so it's been a long time for his story.
What I did not, I started only in 2023, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, the idea came in 2021. Yeah. Cool. Sorry. So how do you feel about your stories now? When you look back at it, I gave all of you printed copies of your stories. Now, I wasn't trying to make you feel any specific thing, but it's just lovely to have it printed and to see it in print for me as well. And how do you feel about it after? It's been a while. Not so long, probably, but it's been a while. How do you feel?
Well, when I wrote the story, I thought there was many more to come, but what a naive little man I was. That's what I think. But yeah, just but to see the story just in isolation, I think it's a little baby, really. It's just sending your little baby out to the world, and you're doing this great thing and this busy. Yeah, it's a good, proud of it. Yeah.
Yeah, we hope you will have more stories. There has to be other stories, Lala.
Yeah, but not to the volume I want.
Oh, I'm curious. What's the volume you want?
Yeah, so mostly that. Just writing a lot of stories more, I guess. That's the way to go ahead. Yeah, so to answer your question, yeah, very proud of the story. Really nice. But when I do look back, I do cringe about the structure a little. Yeah, but then again, I guess that's growth. You do learn new things about yourself, and you do try to rectify yourself, and you make yourself more better at it. So yeah, mostly that. But other than that, I guess pretty good.
Lovely. How about Thea? How do you feel about the story?
Well, like very much like what Lala said, kaile kahin alikati cringe huncha. But at the same time, you're also very like proud of the story in a sense that it has its own life. I think for me, looking back to personally, I think it was like I was at a point where I was like, okay, ma writer to ho, but like there isn't any, I always said, if you write, you're a writer. And I proudly call myself a writer. And I had few pieces here and there, Unsani, or with friends, I would read them. But like, so publicly say, I'd never sent it out. And so, yeah, I think I'm proud of myself for doing that. And really proud that I had this like community at the writing center who were very encouraging, and it was a journey. Feedback the day, draft after draft, it was created. So I think the process of writing in itself, I'm very much attached to the story. I joke sometimes I think about Kriti and I'm like, oh, she too, she's probably older and wiser. This character or Kumani. Yeah, I think मेरो लागि चाहिँ as like a growing writer panam, or like as I grow older and I become more comfortable with the title of like tag of writer and writing more stories. I think this was the first time when I really sat with a character. I think writing even with this writing, I could have done but it was the first time where I really sat down with a character. Like there's so many things about Kriti that I've not written here, but for the backstory, I know which school she went to, what were the name of her best friends, or like what she likes to eat for dinner and things like that. I think that was the shift for me, that every story that I write, I just go back to what I did with Kriti, and all my characters kind of sort of become these friends in my own head. So like that was a changing pivotal moment for me. So I always look back at the story with a lot of fondness. I said like your story might say I was also doing research simultaneously. For the last 3-4 years, I've been also doing my own research. And in the process of that research, I met a lot of, trans women or queer women all across Nepal, from Sudur Pashchim to Kathmandu to like Jhapa area is Mahakali, Mechi, right? So basically, I met a lot of trans women, and I collected their stories, and I feel very thankful that they were so happy to share their story with me. And letting me document that. So I think, and I wouldn't say this Kriti is based on any one of them, but it also felt like collectively, their story or sunira document. I felt the need to also provide a certain nuance to their story. So Kriti allowed me to do that. So like if I read it as a writer or reader, I'm like, oh no, or like there are a few lines where I'm like, oh my god, that was too much. But then as a whole, I feel very happy that I got a chance to write this. So that's how I remember the unwritten letters.
The story got written. I think that's the story got written. Most important thing for all three of your works that's here. Thank you for writing them. It's lovely to read them. Coming to Sharad, I remember meeting you during the award ceremony, Writing Nepal 2023, and I asked you, how are you feeling? And you said, I don't have any expectations. And I was like, wow, that's such a powerful space to be at, to create something and not have an expectation of it. How do you feel about your story now?
So the experience I had with the story was that after it was out online, I could not actually, bring myself to actually, I would just start to read the story, but it would just feel like so bad, basically. So it, after it has been, or, after it was out, I could only, do like a full kind of like a reading in the last week only. And the experience, it was like, it's not so bad. And as for how I feel about the story, I actually felt that at the time of at the time of the composition of the story itself, I had like a few ideas of like for each kind of like a word or a sentence, you have a certain intentionality. But after the story is out, the intentions are not the same anymore. Like you kind of see how in an unconscious or like a subconscious kind of a way, like you made all these intentions. So it's not the same as it was at the time of the composition. As for how I feel about it, I feel that it's a story. It's just a story among like 1,000, like it could be like 1,000,000 other stories. So I don't feel super attached to it. But yeah, it's not that bad.
I liked it when you said the intentions are different.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate that a little bit?
Intentions. So for example, like again, I talked about the idea that the story was kind of, or the structure of the story. It was kind of like supposed to be like an essay for a therapist, but it is not. It's not like a necessary part of the story anymore for me. So it was like a structure I had to have so that I could actually like complete the story. But after it was like complete, I'm not like, super interested about that structure anymore.
I see.
And additionally, I think I started to see a lot of other things in the story that I was not aware of at the time of the composition. Like, so for example, I feel that the entire story, it has like, like 4 or 5 parts. And it, at least to me, it started to feel like a photo album itself. And how the first part has like it has like a scene or a collection of it has like a collection of scenes, and it's all like a photo. And after that we have like the a second part of the story, and it also has like a scene which is like it's like the main scene of the entire part. And the fact that at the end we are also taking a look at some kind of the photos and a photo album, it like I was not like aware of this thing at the time of composition, but after it started to seem obvious in some sense. And there's a few others, but yeah, it's an example.
New things emerge. Oh, that's wonderful. So we have to keep going back to our old stories maybe to find new things.
Yeah.
True. It certainly feels cringe at times, but I think it's also a part of growing up as writers.
You just have to accept it, I guess.
Yeah, it's already done, right? It's already out in the world, and you just have to be like, okay, it's there. When you write this particular story, what comes first to you, in the sense, are you thinking about the setting or the character or the narrative arc, the plot?
So I kind of feel like at the start, if you have the ending already, it's kind of easier. And so by an ending, I don't mean like the whole ending itself. So just like an idea of how the story, it might end. I think it helps a lot. So at the start, it's ideal to have like a few of the first kind of, so the start and the ending. So to just start, start yourself off, I think that could be super helpful. And another thing, I guess, is the tone of the story, or it's the it's the voice of the story. त्यो sound चाहिँ कहाँबाट आइरहेको छ भने जस्तो खालको चाहिँ, if you have that,
the narrator,
yeah,
like the voice, is it a child or a grown-up person? Do you mean by voice? Do you mean that the tone of the story? It's
not only that. So for example, I'm sure we have all read like a book like A Catcher in the Rye. So it's it's kind of a strange book since it's like, like according to like if you take a look at the plot of the book, it's not it's kind of like it is not a plot heavy book,
Yeah.
but it's the voice of the book, and
Okay.
it's so strong
Mhm.
that it's so popular, and it has been out for like at least 80 years, I guess, and it's still popular. So to kalko चाहिँ, if you have like an informed kind of a voice, like यो चाहिँ कहाँबाट आइरहेको छ, अनि पछि यसको अब के पास्ट छ अथवा कहाँ के छ, सो त्यो भयो भने चाहिँ I think it's super easy to start.
Go up with the story. Dia, Lala, how about you?
I can go next. I want to go next because Mir saying it's slightly different from Sharad. Like Mir, like specifically your writing could say, I really didn't know the ending. Unsani. Ani, as I think Alfa can also speak to it. Sort of, I think the first time I read it, it ended up like with Tara and her boyfriend and Kriti, the protagonist, at Kriti's apartment. The second time I think I rewrote it, it was just Tara and Kriti spending the entire night talking. The third draft ended, with just Kriti. So Malai say, I think what the first thing was in question, if you want question ko what was important for me was just understanding Kriti and where she was. And like I really, really kept afni mind ma walking from Tamil to Lazimpat. And from my own experience, or even like Googling Google Map ma gaera the right but left ma so I think so once I had all of it, I had Kriti and her intention, I had the surrounding, the environment, and I think those things kind of sort of influence. And I think that's why, going back to our previous conversation, why like visuals or description matter to me is because they allow me to, take the story, someplace that I hadn't thought it would go. So I think that is like a little slightly different. There are stories where where I like really know the ending, and I'm someone who loves spoiler. Like you tell me the end of a book or a movie, it's more likely that I'll watch it. Yeah, and so there are stories where I've thought about the ending, or I write because I really like the ending, or and that has happened, a few times. You just want to reach a pinnacle or a moment, and you write to reach there. That has happened a lot. But specifically your story ma ra espachiko ek duara stories or afno writings or ma I've asked the characters to lead me, and whenever I'm stuck, that's what I do. Like I cheat. Like whenever I'm stuck in a story, I'm like, okay, that's how and then I start thinking about the things around. It's like maybe chessboard like Kunnama. So I'm like, okay, so she's someone who likes chess. She plays chess, right? Could I do something with that? Does she go and bring out the chessboard and start like, sometimes, yeah, this is, and then because you do that, you get like different branches of possibilities, and you're like, and then you go think, okay, maybe this was not the intention, Suruko intention, and you just find those branches which make sense for you as a writer or like as a reader, and you just like, but that was how it was for this story. Like she ended up in her apartment by herself. When all the initial drafts, she was always with someone else, and it really didn't feel good. Like the ending, or like or like I just couldn't finish it, or I just couldn't leave it. And when she was alone by herself in that apartment waiting for you, I was like, oh. It kind of made it easier for me to let the piece go. Now, obviously, I would be still like grabbing my like paper and be like, or like it was difficult to let go one of them, no?
Yeah.
And then when she had her moment, I was like, okay, I can let go.
Waiting for the you character.
Yeah, waiting for the you character.
I love that you said if you get stuck, you ask the characters to lead. and then you are thinking, what is there around them that they will use? I think that's such a wonderful technique to use. I'm gonna try that. And you'll know about it if I do. I like to know the ending too, but then I've also learned in the last year or so that it's okay to not know the ending and then just go wherever it goes. And at first I was a bit hesitant about that. I was like, oh, I need to know the ending. It's like, if I'm going to Patan, I need to know where Patan is. It's like that. But I'm like, no, let's see where this boss goes, which has been interesting for me. And Lala, how about you? What comes first when you write?
It's quite interesting you say that you're really ready to go with the flow. I actually find myself in really opposite direction. So for me, whenever I used to look at writing a story, so whenever I used to look at it, to draw parallels, I used to draw parallels from a research paper. So like if you look at it, I feel it always felt like there must be a rationale to a story. So there must be a question, just like a research question, that we start from it. So started off from that. I used to do that. Even writing the story before forming any characters or anything. There's always a rationale in the mind. कि यो चाहिँ अब यसको कोर चाहिँ यो हुनुपर्छ है भन्ने खालको एउटा त्यो गरेर त्यसको वरिपरि बिल्ड गर्दै गर्दै लगेर अनि पछि गएर चाहिँ स्टोरी फर्म गर्ने तरिकाले सोच्थे भने अहिले चाहिँ आई एम मोर ओभर लिनिङ टुवर्ड्स द प्लटिङ साइड अफ थिङ्स अनि सो मेरो पुरानो अनि सिन्स आई एम सच आई ग्रू अप अन राइटर्स लाइक रवि थापा अनि प्रवीण अधिकारी which are such great descriptive writers, and this was my always main goal used to be descriptions, and this was focus used to be that, and you make a story around that. But it's more over plot based explore garna I'm more interested. Mostly they are intuition based, and I like to be more intentional with my stories now. So it's always a fight between those two things. But I guess
between which two things?
Intuition and intention. Yeah, so two things could be. It's such a fight, and this was I guess the story that really marks it is one that maintains this golden balance. And this was so. I mean, on a utopia, really, if that happens. But right now, really gunning for that, and really excited to explore what really comes from intention, if not intuition. With intention, I guess, coming out of the hobbyist writer phase, and really taking it seriously, sitting down, putting the work, writing, itine leksu bhanera, which is really hard. It's
totally.
It's torturous on this busy. To like really understand what the craft is and the beauty of it. It has been a journey, and this was really exciting as well. But no matter how painful it is, we all keep coming back to it. I mean, it's the sweet pain thing.
Coming back to?
Writing.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Wow. Intention versus intuition. Oh, I'll think about it the next time I'm writing a story. And like, I also like your research approach. Like, what's the question that you're answering? I think that could also be an interesting way to write a story or think about it. Now, friends, shall we move to rapid fire?
Yes. I just get very competitive with any random kurarma. Alfa knows this about me. I'm never competitive in life or like serious things, but like trivial matter, I'm like, I need to win. Like
this is not a trivia. It's just a rapid fire where I ask questions and you will answer it.
Rapid fire. Okay.
Rapid fire. But before we move to rapid fire, a shout out to our snack partner, Paalcha Newari Kitchen, for sending us such delicious snacks that we'll be having right after we finish this recording.
The room smells so yummy.
Everybody's feeling hungry. On that note, rapid fire. So because we're three of us, I'll ask one question and we'll take turns to answer, but then it'll like the first person to answer will keep switching.
Okay.
So let's say I ask a question. I suppose Dia answers first, and like Sharad and Lala will also answer. And in the second question, somebody else will go first. It will not be Dia. So that everybody gets that.
Rapid
So that,
fire.
yeah,
Rapid
other two
fire,
don't get
1
to
second of like thinking.
thinking. Yeah, okay. Who would like to answer first?
I like gift hampers.
We have food. Anybody would like to go first?
Yeah, sure, I can go first. then.
Okay. Rapid fire question. If you have to recommend 3 books, what books would you recommend?
3 books. So maybe it's gonna be all story collections, I guess. So I think so I'm in the country by this writer called her name is Mia Alvar is one book. Second is Octavia E. Butler's. She has a collection of stories called The Blood Child and Other Stories. That and Drown by Juno Diaz.
Okay. Lala or Dia? 3 books you'd recommend.
Just like based on what I was reading or something that's like in my head at the moment. So always, of course, The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Neffeniger. Love that book to death. I think it was the first book that I bought with my own money, and I think that's the book that made me fall in love with love and the concept of time and how we can play around it. At the moment, I'm writing a lot of like time and love and how it influences each other. So definitely that. Pachinko. I think the whole generational thing, the generational story really got to me. And I think it's such a beautifully elaborated story and so very important one. And the third one is Interpreter of Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri. I think, I think those are some of the books that I can recommend.
Yay. Lala.
Good God, this is so hard. I guess on a novel side of things, say I guess the most the one that I really like is I need to think a while for this.
Rapid fire.
This is a rapid fire.
I am
right?
clearly
I'm
winning.
I'm sorry. I forgot.
Just any 3 books.
Yeah.
You don't have to think so hard. It's not like written in stone.
Yeah, okay. So I guess like any volume from Marcel Proust, I think that is a really good volume. It's a fun volume from that. I guess Harry Potter, the first part of Deathly Hallows, which is a really good coming of age story somehow. It's just like it's a break of things before the actual big bad thing happens. So I guess that is really powerful. And I guess the third book would be Collection of Stories, Vanishing Act by Praveen Adhikari. So I guess, these are my 3.
Yay, you did it. You were so tensed for like a few seconds. And, oh my God. I feel exam din Okay, next question. Who will go first? Dia will go first.
Yeah, we can do esto.
Esto.
A triangulate corner.
Okay.
Left.
Triangulate.
Wow, did you just punch me? Just keep it.
Okay, next question. If you could invite a writer for tea, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh my God. I thought I had my answer. So, living Arundhati Roy. I've grown up listening to her. I really love the issue that she writes about. And with everything that happened this year with her, I would really would want to sit with her and talk to her and maybe be more inspired. And then on the other side, also Jane Austen. I mean, I love that lady. She makes me cry. She makes me laugh, and I go read her books when I'm sad. So yeah, I think so Jane Austen.
Jane Austen. That reminds me of the first line of the book.
Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
Should I say it?
Yeah, please.
No, it's like keep with your whatever you say. A man in possession of a great fortune is it must be in want of a wife, something along the lines.
Something along that line. True.
Yeah.
Okay, who's gonna go next? Look at Ala will go next. Left, right? We're triangulate.
Okay, trying to triangulate. Yeah. Well, I guess Emily Dickinson. Yeah, would love to sit down with her and wear all white and have tea. I don't think she'd speak a lot, so we'd just sit in silence. So it would be fun.
Wow, that's so vivid. Like we're all white, and also the fact that you're admitting she probably won't speak a lot, and then you just have tea.
Yeah, I think that would be fun.
Wow. So I had a phase where I used to write letters for like authors and also characters. And then just post it on my blog, and it was called Letters Never Posted, and I wrote one for Emily Dickinson.
Oh, that's amazing.
Sharad, a writer you invite.
Dead or alive?
Yeah, and any.
I guess it would have to be the Irish writer. Joyce, James Joyce.
Yeah.
James Joyce.
I think he just completely changed the way fiction is actually planned and structured. Like I think a lot of the stories were about the stories only, but after him, he started with the idea that a story, if it has a structure and if it has like an author who is planning the whole thing out, I think it started from him. So yeah, I'd probably have tea with him.
Have you read Ulysses? Right?
Yeah.
Is that how it's pronounced?
Yeah.
It's
Ulysses.
I've not read it.
It's a dense book. Dense.
It's people have thoughts. A lot of thoughts about that book. Now Lala will go first, right? Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What is a writing advice that you often use?
Oh, right now, currently, going back to what I said again, what I'm trying to use is plot. Just know how to plot, know where a story is going. Don't be too reliant on descriptions only. Writing is more than that. And you need to understand that key. When you write, also the serious, right? How do I put this? I don't want to sound make them arrogant or something. Okay, fine. Let's say it this way. I guess artistic hunger you also need to learn how to be more aligned with being at a writer's side. You need to have a set discipline on this if you really need to achieve some sort of success or something. Not that I've achieved any success, but then again, to go ahead in the path. That's the advice that I've received, and really trying to utilize it. Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yes, you can do it. Discipline, writing discipline. Oh my god, I'm going to faint. Sharad.
Advice. I don't think that I actually follow any kind of advice. So, am I supposed to speak about like an advice I follow, or is it like an advice that I have to give or something like that?
Something that you follow, an advice.
A delicate golden line.
Sorry?
No, I was like a delicate golden line of the both.
Yeah.
That Lala was talking about.
So, an advice that I follow is to not use tricks.
What does that mean?
So often at the time of composition, you start to have some ideas like so if you have such kind of the tricks, it will fail. It will fail. So it should kind of come to you, and it will if you try hard enough. So I guess to not cheat or to use kind of some kind of like a trick is an advice that I try to follow.
Can you elaborate that a little bit? I think I know what you mean, but I'm not too sure.
Yes.
Isto feel well, isto.
So
Got a little confused.
yeah. So suppose you are trying to have like a scene in which you are like your like idea and like your intention is to have the audience feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be like suppose you want to have them feel sad or something like that. So if you try to do the writing like with such a goal in your head, it might not work. And the idea should be that it all happens in an organic kind of way.
Okay.
So it's like a super specific kind of an example, but hamle चाहिँ अलिकति unconsciously पनि चाहिँ we would often be trying a lot of such kind of such kind of like a trick.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is to understand exactly at what point like you have a trick, and to just like throw it away basically.
So it just has to come. It's like saying the story has to flow organically.
Yeah.
You put you organically unless instead of you like being like, this is how my character is supposed to act or feel, or my audience is supposed to feel.
Like it's one example, but of course I would say a lot of other kind of like a trick you use.
Okay. No tricks. Yeah.
I was going to be like, use tricks. No. So I think something that I've followed a lot, and this comes from one of the poems by Sarah K, is, whenever I'm stuck really badly, or I don't know if there's anything called like being stuck really badly, but sometimes it doesn't work or you don't feel it working. So for me, it's always been live as much as you write. Like a lot of my, I'm someone, if someone says something and, it's striking, it stays with me. Like I've carried like words or sentences said by my friends or anyone that, like I just watch a movie and a line just sticks out or a visual sticks out, and I stay with it for a long time until a point where it becomes a story or like something, or I get to do something with it, right? There's so many beautiful things out in the world, and you take a small part of it in your palm, and then now it's on you to actually make something out of it. So I think for that you really need to live and experience. And something that very recently, I actually was showing a story of mine to Sharad, and he was, his feedback was, or he said, Diya, the story feels very safe. Take risk, right? Or it's playing really safe, and I think that's something that I'm also trying to do at the moment. Or I think that's an advice that which also goes very well with, the whole live as much as you write kind of thing, is that if you don't take risk in your, in your real life, you get to experience more things. I think it might be very specific to me, this advice, but that's how it works for me. I can't be in a dark room writing, and if I'm stuck, something magical is not going to happen to me. And I might just step out and, the sunlight might hit the wall in a certain way, and, that gives me an idea. So I think that, just taking risk in real life, calculated, that also influence your writing. And I think, when I think about, there's always this thing, like don't talk to your idol or, someone because they write so beautifully, and when you meet them, they're like bland life. It's a fear, and there's actually like a movie made out of this. There was like, I think, Jane Austen Kone retelling of her journey, where, people, like someone meets her. I think it was Jane Austen movie, or maybe it was Little Women. Ko kune part. I don't know. I forgot. Louisa Meow. I think I'm mixing up names, but the ke huncha bhane, she meets her like ideal writer, and she's so happy, and she realizes that this writer lives in only in her books. And she has this amazing stories and like very dramatic life in the books. But in real, she's just a woman who stays in her room and just writes and does not have a lot of things going on in her life. I think I personally cannot be that. So I think my advice is that has worked for me is living as much as I'm writing and taking risk likewise, Unsani. So yeah, that.
Live. Okay, everyone, make note. Please live.
Yeah, I'm like, live, laugh, love.
Oh, true. Okay, another short question is favorite place to write. We'll start with Sharad.
I have no favorite place to write. I can do it if it's kind of, like silent. So I don't have like a favorite place to write.
Okay. Yeah. Moving to the left.
Miro, okay. I mean, I always like the idea of being under a table and writing.
Oh, like
so
being in the table?
Yeah.
Are we still talking about writing?
Yeah. No, I mean, no, it's like, I think for me, the sensory overload so where like, I just spoke about how I'm not going to be a lady who writes in a dark room, but like really talking about that. But like as Sarah said, I don't think there is any like favorite place, but I do tend to gravitate towards spaces which like interruption now spacing. I feel like for me it takes a lot. I've realized, I think especially you here, that it takes a lot for me to like sit down and start writing start basically it's its own beast. The fact that I have to sit somewhere and like begin writing, perhaps it has to do a lot with my own mental health at the moment. So I've gravitated towards that space or rooms and where it's like quiet, where I know that I'll not be interrupted, and it can be anywhere. Also, weirdly, I've written stuff in cafe, pura earphone thusera, where it's like, where I get in the zone too. Yeah. Oh, yes. I am my answer. So sorry. It took a long time for me to get the answer. Like I really can't work or like do writing if the room is messy or something is not sunny. Like my entire dhyan, it goes on to like, oh, room milaunu parcha, yo garnu parcha, tyo garnu parcha. I get distracted very easily. So like a really sorted place. It can be cafe, really aesthetic cafe. It could be the writing center or library. It could be my own bedroom, like a really aesthetic, quiet place where my dhyan does not go on like fixing things or that.
Okay, Lala.
Well, I guess there's this weird thing attached to my writing is mostly I must be breaking some kind of rule when I'm writing. Mostly, well, explaining myself more on that. Say, either I have to be wasting my employer's time by working. I hope they don't hear this.
Are you sure you want to say this on record?
Working in the office desk or either in a classroom when my professor is teaching taxations, I'll be just writing fiction down. Or just like I have an exam tomorrow, I just have this brilliant idea in the head. So it is such a flight or fight mode in the head. And especially, yeah, I guess the more I've done that, the more I've realized ki, okay, I guess this is the crucial time right ideas आउँछ भनेर अनि that's the where I'm when I'm more motivated to write, which is weird. But yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
You gotta take risks.
Oh, Lala's taking all the risks.
Like the idea pani like the questions are
true.
Well, nothing is riskier than writing under the table.
No, I think it was a
you
moment.
take the cake, don't worry.
No, I think my room was so messy. My room was so messy, I just couldn't like think about writing. I just thought about like cleaning. But I was so tired, I didn't want to clean it. So I just went under the table and ki dikhdainanta. And so I just like started writing, and it became a spot for like a few days, and then I realized
Favorite spot already.
Yeah, and I realized if I tell this out loud to people, like, it's not gonna come out right.
You have told it out loud on record.
On record. Thanks, Lala.
last question, where I think it's not a rapid fire question, but I think it'll be a good place to end our wonderful conversation that's been going on since 12 o'clock.
Alfa's like, look, it's that tomorrow.
No. I guess all of us are hungry and we have to eat food as well. So it might be a little difficult. It's going to be a big question, but let's see how our writer friends wrap it up at the end. Why write? Why do you write? I mean, there's an essay by George Orwell called Why I Write. I think Audre Lorde wrote another essay called Why I Write as well, inspired by the title. Was it Audre Lorde or was it Joanne Didion? You would know.
Joanne Didion. Yeah, Why I Write. So.
Yeah, I think it's Joanne Didion.
Didion.
Okay. So, why write? And the floor is open. We're not doing the triangular thing. Anybody can go first. Why do you write?
Oh, wow. You think I'm ready?
Yeah.
Why do I write? Or why write, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. I know I don't really want to sound mad. But for me, why write bhanda chahi ani I've actually written an essay for a course and that's how I know of Didion. But yeah, the whole point was why I write, and it took me a lot. Or I write because it's the one thing that makes me very happy. And I've tried 9 to 5. I've tried so many different things. Ani when I write, it's the only thing I can fully concentrate and give my time. Ani I feel like I don't do anything else better than I write. So I think very personal why I say that. But then also I think, especially for me, I think I write also because I feel like when we read different authors or different books or the mainstream, my answer is going to be very got and nice and prim, or I don't know, packaged just to sound good. So, but I think it's very important for me to write stories that we have not heard before, right? Especially from like writer, women author or rubata, or like women perspective bata, and not just women, but also like the queer community or other, said adjacent communities or rubata or individual bata. Yeah, I think that's why I also write, or I urge people to write, because we need to hear more stories. And the story themselves don't need to have those nuances. So there are two things. Either the story is about a character that we hear so less about, right? Or second, it can be from a person. And the story can be very mainstream, but the person who's writing it might not have had the opportunities, or the person who like them might not have the opportunity. So their perspective, Bata, I think for me it really matters. I always believe that the world is big enough for all the stories. So everyone, who has a story has the right to tell it. But I also understand we live in a society or a world where everything is not so fair. And for me personally, that is why I write, I feel like. And that's why I urge other writers to also write. So yeah, that disrupting the status quo is the kura. But on a very, very personal level, like going back to what I was saying in the beginning, for me, I feel like I write because that's the only thing I can do. Just the feeling also. And that's why I said in the beginning, I don't want to sound very like Kiritio. I don't know, like the inherent writing, say inherent, I know they were, it's a skill like every other thing, every other craft. It's a skill, just a laksa. But for me, I've always gravitated towards writing. And it's a thing. Like there was a period of time where I was very cranky and moody, or like having bad days again and again. And I realized I hadn't journaled for a month or so. Okay. And then I was like, oh, that's weird and interesting. And I started writing, and everything in the world felt okay. So I think, that's how and why I write. And Also because my Theo, was it Kore Theo, the first person who write Why I Write Wala? Or
George Orwell.
George Orwell, right? Yeah. I really had a lot of things to say about his reasons to why. Like, I feel like, yeah, his reasoning to why I write much, I felt it missed a lot of like humanity or the humanness of it. Sometimes people write just because they want to write and it makes them happy, and I don't think it can be calculated like he has the structure need. So yeah, that's why I write sometimes to prove him wrong.
Okay, I love that you said there's space for all stories in the world. Oh, there's space for all of our stories. And on that note, who would like to go, Lala, Sharad? Why I write?
Okay. So, okay. So I don't want to, I don't want to make this into a therapy session, but I guess that the main thing that actually started, I think it actually started in like an unconscious way, I guess, since I wasn't aware of it. Still, I think that the stutter that I have, I think is such a big kind of like a blocker for me to express myself to the effect that I want to express myself. And I kind of feel like it started from there. So as soon as the first time, I started to feel that I was not expressing myself in the way that I want to. I probably started to think for some alternative to just, search for some other forms of communication. And I guess that the most obvious thing was this. But I think in the case of like a lot of people, I think that people start to write because they're unhappy, because for some reason, like as we talked about, it just feels so good as soon as you have like. It could be like a super short kind of a paragraph. It could be like short kind of like a summary of the things you did in the day, and it still it feels so good after you have finished it. So I feel like a lot of people start to write because of some sort of unhappiness. And for me in particular, I think I was in search of like alternative forms of communicating and expressing myself. And also because the idea of fiction is so good, since you have the option to imagine like another kind of a life, basically. So I guess like a mixture of all these things together would be the reason that I write.
Okay, alternate life. What's your why I write reason, Lala?
I think what Sharad just said, it's very interesting. And I also do think a lot of writing do come from someone feeling inadequate and this busy, just trying to find their place in the world. And with Dia, also something that I've been really ruminating around is just like writing story at what cost, or what price, and this busy at the same time. Really understanding for who, this busy, what the impact it's going to make with that as well. But then again, when I started off, what I really thought of a story or writing was key. I'm taking all of this. It was really a high from getting a story done, not a paragraph done or anything. I'm taking all of this abstract concepts and taking it all in, and this busy producing this tangible story out of me. It's almost like creating something. I'm a god. So it's a very, very given the like egotistical way to go through it. I started off like that, but then again, with as you grow by age बढ्दै experience with answer, you just see a lot of walks of life. अनि सरदले भने जस्तो कुराहरू, I think you kind of take that into consideration, and it just has been like this big pool of how important storytelling has been and sharing the experience. So I guess that's why we write, right?
Yeah, true. Wow, so many lovely, deep answers. And what a wonderful conversation we've had. I hope all of you had a great time. I'm like, wow. We have to have this conversation come to an end, but let's keep our writings on. And thank you so much for joining. I hope you had a good time.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes.
And bringing all of us like batch together
Yeah.
in one room.
Yeah, it was fun. Also, thanks to the sponsor.